Hello everyone, good morning. First of all, a warm welcome to OIC training by Unogeeks. In this video, I'll show you how to use lookups in OIC. I'll also explain a couple of use cases for lookups, where exactly you might have to use lookups in OIC. I'll show you how to set them up, and I'll also show you how to derive values from the lookups in the integration flows. Okay, so let's get started. And to explore how to use lookups, we'll build a REST API, which will receive an item number, and it's probably an item number from e-business suite application as an input. And we will create a lookup, and in that lookup we'll store the mappings between EBS item numbers and ERP item numbers. And here the expectation is that the item numbers in EBS and ERP cloud is slightly different. They follow a different naming conventions. And the REST API is going to receive EBS item number as input, and we need to check it in the lookup that we're going to create, wherein we are going to create the mappings between EBS item number and ERP item numbers. And from the lookup, we need to get the ERP item number corresponding to this EBS item, and we need to send it back as a response. So it's a simple use case just to show you how to set up a lookup and derive values from it and use it in the integration flows. And apart from this use case, we will also I'll also show you how to create a lookup to store a common properties such as email IDs, and use and pull the email IDs like from email ID and two email IDs from the lookup, and use them to send out notification emails from the integration itself. Okay, so lookups are typically used to store values in a configurable way. So lookups can be used for various purposes. You can use it to store the mappings from one system to another system, such as EBS to ERP cloud or Salesforce to ERP cloud. And lookups can also be used to store common properties such as email IDs or the URLs, so that tomorrow if they change, you don't need to deactivate the services wherein those values are hard coded. Say for example, you're sending out a notification from an integration flow. A straightforward way is you can hard code the email IDs in the integration itself, like from and to email IDs. But tomorrow, if the user changes, say a two user changes, then you need to look for integration specialist to take down the service. You need to ask him to take down the service, edit the two email ID which is hard coded in the service, and then update it rather, and then activate the service back. So to avoid all that, what we usually do is we usually avoid hard codings to the extent possible in OIC, and that's where lookups come into picture. So to explain the use case that I just said, to send out a notification, I need from and to email IDs, which might change typically in future. Or and what do I do in such case? I'll create a lookup, and in that lookup, I'll store a from and to email IDs, and wherever I need to send out notification from the integrations, I will pull the from and to email IDs from a lookup and send the notification out. And what's the benefit with the lookups approach? Tomorrow, if the user changes or if the email ID changes, I don't need to touch the integration. I can just update it in the lookup. So lookups can be used to store mappings between applications like the item numbers in EBS and ERP cloud, or lookups can also be stored to or used to store common properties such as a from and to email IDs or a directory names or a file name pattern or any use case. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with this REST API build. And before we build the REST API, let's configure the lookup first to capture the mapping between EBS item number and ERP cloud item number. So let's go into Oracle Integration Cloud instance. And I'm in the lookup screen now. Let's create a new lookup. And let's call it Unogeeks item mapping lookup. We should not have spaces in the name. It's okay. Create it. And the lookup structure is highly configurable. You can add, by default, it will have 2 columns and 1 row. You can add as many columns as you want. And you can also add as many rows as you want. So it's highly configurable. And here I want to store the mappings, mappings of item number from EBS to ERP cloud. Okay, so I'll call this as EBS item numbers. And again, you should not have any gap. You can probably use underscore it if it makes sense. And I'll change this column to ERP cloud item number. Okay, and here the assumption is that the item number numbering convention used is different in EBS and ERP cloud. And let's assume that items are numbered as A, B, and C, okay, in EBS, but they are called as item 1, 2, or 3 in ERP cloud. So let's just add 2 more entries in there. Item B in EBS corresponds to item 2. And say item C corresponds to item 3 in ERP cloud. So the use case is going to be, yeah, we'll build a REST API which will receive EBS item number as input. And within the API, we are going to check that EBS item number in this lookup. We'll search for the EBS item number that we received as input. We'll search for that item in this lookup in the EBS item number column. And we will retrieve ERP cloud item number and send it back as a response. So if you receive item B as input, so we will search in EBS item number with item B. So this record matches the requirement or matches the item number. And we'll pull item 2, which is the corresponding ERP cloud item number, and send it back as a response. Okay, let's see how to do that. So let's go ahead and create a REST API. And to create a REST API, I need a trigger connection. So I'll create a REST trigger connection first. Unogeeks, lookups, trigger connection. Change the role as trigger. Change the security policy to basic authentication, test it, and save it. Connection is in configured state now. I can go ahead and build the REST API. Select app-driven orchestration. Unogeeks use lookups in OIC. Let's put it in Unogeeks package. Change the layout to horizontal and configure the trigger connection. Use the connection that you have just created, the lookups trigger connection. And we will receive EBS item number as input. And we will, what we do is we search for the EBS item number in the lookup, get the ERP cloud item number, and send it back as a response. So I'm not going to type in that description in the operation. That's okay. I'll just, and in the relative resource URI, I will enter a template parameter. I will call it as EBS item number. Configure this endpoint to receive a response because we want to send back ERP cloud item number. JSON sample. Enter a sample response payload, and we call this as ERP cloud item number. and you can just say any number, item A, B, C, or etc. It's okay. And we are receiving EBS item number here, and I want to check uh, search for that item number in a lookup and get the ERP cloud item number, and I want to map it here. Okay, so here we are sending back ERP cloud item number, right? So in the mapper, let's go to the mapper directly, and in the mapper, so we are receiving the EBS item number from the client, and we need to send back ERP cloud item number. So in the lookup, I have mapping between these two. So I want to use the lookup in the transformation or in the mapper function now. So the way you do it is, do a right click on the ERP cloud item number, create target node, go into our developer mode. By default, it will be in view only mode. Go into developer mode, toggle functions, expand integration cloud function, drag and drop the lookup value. And the moment you do that, you will see the lookups configured in the instance. Pick up the item mapping lookup, and you can pick up the source column and target column. So where do you want to search for EBS item number? I want to search in EBS item number. EBS item number is going to be my source, and ERP cloud item number is going to be my target. Click on next, and you can assign a default value here. And this will be used in case the EBS item number that you are searching in the lookup is not present. So in case the number is passed in as, say, item F, but item F doesn't exist in the lookup. In such case, what value needs to be sent back to the client as an ERP cloud item number? For example, you could use a string like this. You can say no data found, or maybe a custom message to indicate that yes, item could not be found, or item mapping could not be found in the lookup. Okay, and you see that an expression is getting generated. It's a DVM lookup value function. DVM stands for domain value map. And what does it do? It goes to this lookup. So what will OIC do? As part of this expression, it goes to this lookup. It searches in EBS item number column with a source value. And this source value, we're going to replace this with EBS item number that we are receiving as input. So what we are basically telling OIC to do is go to this lookup, search in EBS item number with the value that we have received from client, get back the value of ERP cloud item number, and assign that value to the ERP cloud item number response element. And in case a match is not found, assign a value of no data found to the ERP cloud item number. Click on done. And you need to replace the source value. It's important. Don't forget the step. Source value, replace that with EBS item number. And once you do that, you can map them. Okay, the expression is unknown. Expected. Not particularly sure what this error is all about. Okay, so we have a lookup, EBS item number, and then the template parameters. ERP cloud item number and the no data found. Or let me just take this off and let's see what happens. I've just deleted the default value, but it's okay. Let's put it back. Okay, it says missing a required number of parameters. It's okay. Let's repeat the exercise. Let me erase it and save the expression. Let's just do it one more time. Drop a lookup function. Select the source column as EBS item number. Target column as ERP cloud item number. No need to enter any default value, or probably you can enter no data found and click on done. Save the mapping. Well, there seems to be some bug here. So I've just deleted the node and repeated the same exercise. So in fact, the expression that was generated is also the same. But if I validate the expression now, it's getting validated. So we are asking OIC to go into this mapping lookup, search for EBS item number, get the corresponding ERP cloud item number, and assign it to this response attribute. Okay, and if a no match is found, send out a value as a no data found, or probably a more meaningful message like this: no item mapping found for EBS item number. Maybe a descriptive message like this. Save it, validate the mapping. Close. And we can activate it, activate the API and test it. Let's enable tracking. Select EBS item number as a tracking identifier, save it. Let's activate it. Enable trace and activate. You can go ahead and test the API. Pass the input as item A. So we've got back item 1 as a response because item A in EBS corresponds to item 1 in ERP cloud. And pass in C, pass in B or C, you should get back 2 and 3. And if you pass in a value which doesn't exist in a lookup, like say item F, for which we don't have an entry in the lookup, you get a warning message which says no item mapping found for EBS item number passed. Okay, so this is how you could store the mappings in a lookup between different applications such as EBS and ERP cloud, and derive values from them in the mapper. And another common usage of lookups is to store common properties. Like you might create a common properties lookup, uh, a generic one at a OIC level, and probably another common properties lookup, one per integration in case required. And you can store the from and to email IDs like this, and you can store the actual email IDs. Here I'm storing a from email ID as no reply @oracle.com and to email ID as prasad@unogeeks.com. And wherever I want to send out a notification, I will pull the values from and to email IDs from this lookup. Let me quickly show you how to do that. So go to integrations. Let me deactivate this REST API. So I can also show you how to send out an email notification. And I want to send out an email notification. Just click on the plus icon, use a notification tab, or use notification action. You can either click on the plus icon and search for the action or the component you want to add, or you can click on this actions tab to add in your preferred action. So you can drag and drop in the notification this way as well. I'll probably call it as a send email notification, create. And when you send out a notification, one obvious way is you can hard code the email IDs. You can probably say no reply @oracle.com. You could hard code email IDs like this. There is nothing that stops you from doing this. But what is the downside with this approach? Tomorrow, if the email IDs change, you need to find an integration specialist to identify all the services where you have hard codings and update the email IDs in those integrations. Okay. So instead of that, what you can do, you can store the email IDs in a lookup and pull the values from there. So go to the components tab and search for lookup function. Just search for lookup value function, add it into the expression box. And the moment you add it, you get this, you get the lookup table, pick up common properties, and you can select the source column, property name, and the target column as property value. And let me copy this property name, no reply from email. That's okay. No need to enter any default value. Click on done. And you need to change this source value. And here I'll say, go and pick up email ID for with a property name as no reply from email. Okay, I'll copy the expression, validate, and close. I can also do the same thing for two to pull the two email ID. And two email ID, again, I can use the UI approach. I can search for lookup value function and go through those 3 or 4 screens. Or I can use the expression directly and I can just change the property name to email ID. Okay. And you can enter a subject. You can say sample, or you can probably say test email subject. Just put in some random text. And in the notification body, again, you can enter a plain text or a HTML here. And again, within the text or a HTML, you can also configure the parameters. So you can enter hard-coded text, as you can see here. If you want to incorporate any payload or any attributes from the integration flow and send them as part of the email body, you can define them as parameters here. So you define them in curly braces, and you define those parameters here with the exact same name. So in this case, if you define sales order number as it is shown here in curly braces, you define the same, you define a parameter with the same name and you assign a value to it. So that so when the email is sent out, all the parameters in the email body will be replaced by the values you assign to those parameters. So that way you can send in a dynamic body. So here you can just say, yeah, body test email from OIC. I'm just keeping it simple. So let's validate it. And the moment you put in any template parameter or any attribute like this, say for example, a sales order number, and if you try to validate it, you get a warning message, you get an error. And what does it say? It says invalid parameter. And to do away with this error, you copy the parameter, you copy the value that you have put in curly braces, add in a parameter with the same name, and then you can assign a value. And wherever you get probably we can include the EBS item number here. I just want to show you how to use the values from payload. Okay, EBS item number, and you can also probably define ERP cloud item number. And you need to define these parameters now. EBS item number, that's available as part of the template parameter, map it. ERP cloud item number, where do you get it from? You have to look it up. You have to get it from the lookup. So add in the mapper and get it from the lookup. Search for lookup value function. Add in the expression. Go to Unogeeks item mapping lookup. Search for EBS item number and get the ERP cloud item number. And click on that. And replace the source value with EBS item number. So this way, in the email body, you can send out, you can include the attributes from the payload as well. Okay, and you can also use functions such as a lookup value here. Validate it. So in this notification, so what are we doing here? We are sending out email notification, pulling from and to email IDs from a lookup, and we have also pulled item numbers from the lookup and included it as part of the email body. And if required, you can also send in attachments. Let's go ahead and the tracking is already activated, already enabled. So let's go ahead and activate the API. Okay, let's test it with item A. Kick off the request. And you see the success message, a notification was also sent out. So let me pause the screen share and open my email account. I'm logging to my Gmail account so that I can show you the notification received from OIC. So you could see that we have received an email, a test email from OIC with a subject and a body. And in the body, if you see, there is EBS item number as well as ERP cloud item number. And these values are actually pulled dynamically and assigned or sent out in the email body. Okay, so these are a couple of use cases for lookup. Like you can store common properties and you can store the mappings as well. But you can find a few more use cases in real time as well. Okay, so a thumb rule is avoid hard codings in the integration flows to the extent possible. As simple as that. And lookups is one of your main option, or should be your main option when you want to configure or when you want to set up configurable values. Okay. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys. In case you are interested in Oracle integration cloud training offered by Unogeeks, please call us on this number or send a WhatsApp message, or you can email us on info@unogeeks.com. If you want to just check out the course content, feel free to visit our website, unogeeks.com. Thank you.